Diep rushed to the abandoned warehouse. Her heart was pounding in her chest when the old door was pushed open. Inside, there were only rotten wooden crates and some severed ropes. No night. She trembled and stepped back, tears streaming down her face. From the moment of receiving the ransom call, she was scared to death. But now when James is not here, the fear in her was even greater. James's father, the prince, has just arrived. He frowned and looked around, his voice dropping. It is not here. Diep looked at him with a choked voice. Uncle, has James ever had any problems? Father James clenched his fist, empty hand. It will not be so easily defeated. But his heart was still full of anxiety. Not far away in a small alley behind the warehouse, the thugs were standing there with remorseful eyes. The group leader opened the man's mask, tied up in the car. But when the light shines on that face, they all turn pale. Damn, this is not a normal person. A stuttering junior. The big boss of this area, we are done for. The leader was sweating profusely. He had heard of James for a long time. A powerful businessman. Has extensive relationships with both government and financial circles. He turned to look at James, now untied and calmly adjusting his collar. Sorry, bro. He swallowed Khan. We didn't know it was you. We just get paid to work. Who hired you? The leader bowed his head and said, in a trembling voice to a man named John, he paid us $15,000 to kidnap you. James smiled faintly, his eyes sharp as knives. It seems he has not given up his intention yet. He turned away without saying anything more. The thugs backed away, holding their breath as they watched James leave. John still didn't know that his plan had failed. He picked up the phone and dialed the king's number. When the king's deep voice rang out on the other end of the line, John smirked. Father James must be very worried. Father James clenched the phone and said coldly, "What do you want?" John laughed. "I just want you to understand that if you do not do as I ask, then his son will never come back." Diep stood next to him and heard every word clearly. She clenched her fists, her heart filled with anger. But the king remained calm. He smirked. "John, you should check again. I think you are the one who should be worried." John paused. What did he say? My son was safe, shaking eyes. Why his face pale? There is no way those people are dead. He quickly called the thugs. But when the other end picked up, the first thing he heard was, "We are sorry. We don't know who James is. We dare not touch him." Worm eyes darkened. He threw the phone on the ground and gritted his teeth. "James, you win this time, but I won't let you off." James stepped out of the darkness, his face as cold as ice. I can't let John continue to run. A mock tongue was waiting. "What are you going to do to me?" James smiled faintly, until it was time to play a big game. He turned to look at Tom with sharp eyes. "I want you to collect all the evidence of John's illegal dealings. All the money he received, shady contracts, and the dark network he runs. Tom nodded. "I will start working right away." James smiled dangerously. "This time, I will make sure he has no chance to come back." He took out his phone and dialed a powerful figure. "We have a big fish in. I think it's time to cast the net to deep." Looked at James from afar. She knew the real war between him and John had just begun. John stood in his office, his hand clutching a glass of wine. Eyes flashed with unease. Since receiving the king's call, he cannot rest assured. There's no way James got out that fast. He picked up the phone and called one of his trusted henchmen. "Check where James is right now." Less than 10 minutes later, the junior called back in a panicked voice. "Big brother James is having dinner at a high-class restaurant in the city. He was completely unharmed." John threw the damn glass of wine on the ground. He angrily threw all the things on the table to the floor. How can the Kier people said that they tied James up? He also prepared a secret place to detain him for a long time. But in less than a day the game was free. Something is wrong. He picked up the phone and called his juniors back. "One more thing. Investigate whether James is behaving unusually." "Yes, I will check right away." The king sat down on the chair with his hands clenched. He can't leave James alone. If James really counteracts, he will have to be one step ahead. But what he didn't expect was that James had already prepared. A big trap awaits him. In a private room, James sat in front of the computer screen. Eyes focused on the documents that Tung had collected. Tung pointed to a statistics table. "Here is a list of shell companies that John has set up to launder money in it. Have a large transaction from a foreign organization 3 months ago." James smirked. An international drug trafficking organization is no surprise at all. He turned to look at Tung. "We can use this evidence to indict him. But I want him to be completely destroyed. Not only in law but also in reputation." Tung nodded what he was going to do. James smiled coldly. "I will make him fall into his own trap." He picked up the phone and called some big partners. "I need." They pretended to invest a large sum of money in John's company, then suddenly withdraw all capital. "James, are you sure?" A deep voice came from the other end of the line. James nodded. "I wanted him to collapse right before my eyes. The plan has been implemented. Within a week John will lose everything." But James knew he was not easy to defeat. Diep standing in front of the window. Eyes follow every light in the city. She knew James was fighting a dangerous demon, and that made her uneasy. A knock on the door. She turned around, startled to see Tung standing there. "How is the game, Tung?" Tung smiled lightly. "He is fine, but do you want to help him?" Diep, open your eyes. What can you do? Tung looked at her deeply. "He always tried to protect me, but I cannot stay out of it forever. I have an important mission for you two." Diep clenched his fist. No matter how dangerous it is, she will stay by James' side. In his office, Tung received a call. "Big brother has something big going on. Lamb gave all the evidence to James. He can destroy us. John turned pale. He clenched the phone and slammed it on the table. There is no way he lost everything. John left the office in a hurry, but as soon as he stepped out the door, James stood there with his hands in his pockets and his eyes cold. John, the game is over. John backed away trembling. You cannot do that. James smirked. Why didn't you dig your own grave? Just then the police burst in. He was arrested for money laundering, fraud, and kidnapping. John was handcuffed, his face pale. He struggled but could not escape. James came closer and stared at him. This is the price you pay for what you did. John was dragged away. James breathed a sigh of relief that it was finally over. A few days later, James and Diep, standing on the rooftop of the building. City view. James turned to her and said softly, I owe you a thank you. Without you, this plan will be difficult to succeed. Diep smiled. You don't need to thank me. I did it for you. James took her hand. So can I do one more thing? Surprise, leave what? James took out a ring from his pocket with a sincere look. Made his wife Diep stunned. She looked into the eyes of the night where all the love was contained. Protection and trust for her. Tears glistened in her eyes. But this time it was tears of happiness. She smiled and nodded. I agree. I hug her tightly. Finally, after many storms, they found each other. And this time nothing can separate them anymore.